Our next speaker is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, coach, and speaker, and has sold over 30 million books. His organizations have trained millions of leaders from every nation. Today, he will talk about how to apply the techniques from his latest best-selling book, The Power of Five, written specifically for network marketing. Let's meet and welcome John Maxwell.
What I want you to understand is growth is a catalyst for the success of your life. You got to stop thinking, can I? And start thinking, how can I? So everybody faces the difficulties. It's inevitable. But the option of learning, now that's a choice. I don't promise you it will be easy, but I do promise you it will be worthwhile. Remember this, growth precedes greatness. Hi, this is John Maxwell, and I'm so excited to be with you, Jenna and Josh, and the wonderful people of your organization, My Daily Choice. I'm thrilled to be able to have some time with you to talk about something I'm very passionate about, and that is your success and the success of the people that you influence. My name is John, and I think you're going to find out in these next few minutes that I'm your friend. And I have a great desire to help you to help people. In fact, if there's kind of a theme for my life, it would be that I add value to leaders who multiply value to others. And being with you on My Daily Choice conversation here today, Jenna and Josh, thank you for the invitation of letting me come. I'm so honored that you would let me do this. I'm going to be able to add value, I think, to you that will just absolutely multiply throughout your organization and help so many other people, because that's what we're really here for. We're here to make a difference in people's lives. When I think of the industry that you're in, for probably 5 or 6 years, I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of terrific organizations. And one of the things I've greatly appreciated about you and who you represent and what you do is that I think that the heart and the core of you and what you do is that you truly want to make a positive difference. And because of my respect for you and what you have done and who you are, what you're wanting to accomplish, I wrote a book called The Power of Five. And I would like to, for the next several minutes, talk to you about how this book can add value to you where you are, add value to people that you recruit into your business, and really help you to grow and reach not only your potential, but the dreams I think that you perhaps have for your life. And so let me just talk about the power of five for a moment. I do a teaching that is life-changing. In fact, I'm going to do it now with you. That when I go into companies and organizations, they often say, just talk to us about the power of five, because this concept, this principle that I'm about to share with you has life-changing potential. So let me illustrate it, let me teach it, and let's build off of that foundation for our talk today. Let's say that I have a tree in my backyard that I want to cut down, okay? And I have an axe. And every day I go out to my backyard and I pick up the axe and I go over to that tree and I swing just 5 times with the axe, hitting that tree. Put the axe down. Next day, go back out, pick up the axe, go to the very same tree. Do the very same thing, 5 times. Chop away at the tree, put the axe down. Next day, go outside, pick up the axe. You're getting it. Go to the very same tree. 5 times, put the axe down. If every day I go pick up that axe, go to the same tree 5 times, I hit that tree. Let me ask you, What is eventually going to happen to that tree? What is that tree going to do? Eventually, you know the answer. Eventually, that tree is going to fall down. Okay? That's a fact. There's no disagreement at all on that. If I every day pick up that axe and go to the very same tree, and all I do is swing just every day, just 5 times, every day, eventually that tree will fall. Now, when the tree falls determines on the size of the tree. If it's a small tree, well, I don't know, maybe in a couple months the tree would fall down. If it's maybe a big tree, maybe takes 3, 4, 5 years. But we know this. If every day I pick up that axe, I go to that same tree, and every day I just swing 5 times, eventually that tree will fall. That's what we know. Now, the power of 5, this is a huge illustration, and I don't want you to miss it. So when people come to me and they talk about the dreams that they have for their life, the goals that they're writing down that they would like to accomplish, I always think of the power of 5 because in this little story that I gave you are 5 things. 5 things that if you do every day, you'll accomplish the things that you really want to accomplish in life. So let me teach the power of 5 to you. If I want to cut down that tree in my backyard, there are 5 things that need to happen. Number 1 is I need to know what I want to accomplish. In this story, I want to cut the tree down. In other words, I must be very clear on my dream. I must be very clear on what I'm going to be committed to, my time, my effort, my energy, my money. I must be very specific. I must know what I want to accomplish. Cut the tree down. After you know what you want to accomplish, then the second part of the power of 5 begins to play into the game. After I know what I want to accomplish, the second thing that I must do is I must have the right tool to accomplish the task. So what tool do I have in my yard? I go out and I pick up what? An axe. Now, an axe can cut some wood, and so it's the right tool. I go to that axe and I swing 5 times. Now, what makes this swinging effective is I have the right tool in my hand. Let's just say, for example, instead of picking up an axe, let's say I picked up a baseball bat, and I went over to that tree, and I'm faithful, I'm diligent, I'm swinging 5 times. Can I tell you something? The tree's never going to fall. Am I working hard? Yes. Am I faithful, diligent? Yes. Well, why isn't the tree falling? Wrong tool. I've got to know what I want to accomplish, and then I have to have in my hands the right tool. Now, I'm going to stop here just for a moment to say, as a motivational teacher, I've realized that to help people, I need to provide the right tools for them. That's why I write books. That's why we have all kind of resources in our quiver to give you arrows to shoot at the goals that you're wanting to hit in your life, because we understand that the right tool is essential. And so when people tell me they're working hard, it doesn't do a lot for me unless I know that they're working hard with the right tool. The reason that I wrote the book, The Power of 5, was to give you a tool that would allow you to be very successful in your business, and it would also allow you to recruit other people and put that tool into their hand so they could get started right and they could be successful in their business. So back to the power of 5. Know what you want to accomplish. Have the right tool. The third thing that has to happen to have the power of 5 occur in your life is you have to take action. You see, if I know what I want to accomplish, cut the tree down, and if I have the right tool to cut the tree down, but let's say instead of, when I go out in the backyard, instead of picking up the axe and going over and swinging 5 times and taking action. Let's say I just sat out on a porch and I sharpened the axe and said, boy, this is an important tool that I have. And I sharpened it. Maybe I shine the axe. Okay, now you're getting the picture. You know that as long as I'm sitting on the porch, shining the axe, sharpening the axe, that tree isn't going to fall. You see, I've got to do something with the tool that is in my hand. I've got to take action. You know, in the word traction, which means to be able to make movement towards something you want to accomplish, within the word traction is the word action. And there is no traction without it. So many times, we really don't take the action step. It's kind of like when we sit down and we begin to write out our dream and, well, this is what I would like to accomplish. This is what I want to do in my business. And we write the dream down. And we get all excited when we look at the dream. We talk about the dream. We've written the dream down. We kind of got a dream map for ourselves. But here's what we miss. We have to take action. That's why I tell people all the time, the reason that the dream is fun is because the dream is free. It's a very free thing to be able to say, here's what I want to do in the organization of my daily choice. This is, wow, I want to go to the top. Well, that's good. You see, the dream's free. The journey isn't. The moment you take movement, the moment that you take action, there's always a price to pay. You see, people, most people, many people want the dream to be free. They want the dream to be handed to them. They want the dream to become automatic. And they miss the whole action part. You see, to be successful in my daily choice, you got to take action every day. It's like my father, when I was young, would teach me what I call the frog parable. You perhaps have heard it. He'd say, John, there are 5 frogs on a log. 4 decide to jump off. And then he'd look at me and say, how many frogs are left? And I'd say, 1. He said, no, 5. No, Dad, you said there were 5 frogs on the log and 4 decided to jump off. And so 4 from 5 is 1. There's only one frog left on that log. I said, no, son. He said, just because you decide to jump doesn't mean that you did. You see, the decision you make and the dream that you have doesn't work unless you take action. So the power of 5 says, okay, you have to know what you want to accomplish, have to have the right tool in your hand. You have to go use that tool. You have to take action. And number 4, you have to stay focused. You notice that when I gave you the story, in the story, I talk about the same tree. Every day, pick up the axe, swing the axe, same tree, same tree, same tree. Stay focused, stay focused. Now, what would happen if the second day when I went out, instead of going to the tree that I had chopped away 5 times the day before, I look over and say, well, there's another tree that I need to cut down. So I went over there and it hit it 5 times and put the axe. And next day I went out and said, you know what? I think that third tree needs to, I need to cut down that one too. So I'm over to the 3rd tree, and next day I'm over to the 4th tree, and next day I'm over the 5th tree, and I'm just going around, just cutting trees. But none of them are going to fall. I'm not effective. I'm just scarring all the trees in my yard. Now what's happened? Why am I not accomplishing what I need to accomplish? Because I didn't stay focused. You see, a lot of people, they start well, but they get distracted. And when you and I get distracted, all of a sudden, it takes us off of our game plan. In fact, when you think of what we've gone through with COVID-19, there are some people that have done very well during this crisis, and there are some people that haven't done well at all. And the difference is distraction. Because what a crisis basically is, I explain it this way, that a crisis is a detour. Let me explain. You see, you and I love automatic. We love to be able to get the system down, and we love to have our habits taking care of us. And so every day we're going from point A to point B, and we have this route that we go. And what we love about automatic is you don't even have to think about it. But whenever there's a crisis that comes up in your life or my life, it creates change. And so all of a sudden, the way we've always done something, we no longer do it that way. In fact, we get to that road that we're so familiar with, and there's a detour sign. So now all of a sudden, we're going west instead of south. And if you're like I am, we don't like the detours. We don't like the detours because we want to get to what we want to accomplish. And now we're wasting our time, and we're having to find another way around this whole process. We don't like the detour. And I'm saying to you that if you are distracted, take the tour, the detour tour. Get on that detour tour and say, what am I going to learn from it? What can I adjust from it? But the whole point of is taking the detour is you're still wanting to get back to what your destination is. On the detour tour, learn from all the new things that you're surrounded with and the new experiences that you're having, but don't lose focus. You're cutting down one tree. When we're distracted, it keeps us from accomplishing what we want to accomplish. Are we still working hard? Yes. Are we still swinging the axe? Yes. Are we still taking action? Yes, yes, yes. But we've forgotten what our focus is. So, the Power of 5 says you got to know what you want. You have to have the right tool. You have to take action. You have to stay focused. And number 5, you have to be consistent. Did you notice when I gave you the tree story that there was a word that just kept popping up? That word? Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. You see, what I've discovered is consistency compounds. And no one ever quit their way to the top. No one has ever said, well, I was in the game for a few months, but after a while, you know what, I got tired. And I mean, do you have to do this all the time? And no one has ever quit their way to the top. What I want you to understand is that tree, when it falls, the person, as they every day swing 5 times, which is showing you again that you don't have to work all day, but you have to work every day. Remember, consistency means you're better to have a set time of doing it every day than to do it really long one day and then skip 3 days. You see, when I started to cut the tree down, I didn't know how many chops it would take for the tree to fall. Let's just say for fun, it was a small tree, and it would take 1,137 chops. What happens if on cut number 1136, I stop? You see, what we don't understand is we never know how long it's going to take to accomplish our goal and our dream. But we do know this, that if we ever stop, if we fail to be consistent, what we know for sure is this: we'll never accomplish our dream. It's possible, because we don't know when the tree is going to fall. It's the story of a sledgehammer with a rock that you just keep pounding on that rock and nothing seems to happen. You just keep pounding, and after a while you kind of say, I don't think anything's happening, I'm going to quit. And I don't know, after 800, 900, there's a certain amount of pounds, and all of a sudden the rock cracks. Now, let me ask you a question. When that rock cracked, when that sledgehammer hit that rock and it cracked, did we just get good on that one swing? No. We've been good the whole time. It's just that last swing was the one that made the difference. Success showed up on that last swing. We were already successful. We were successful when we took the sledgehammer the first day and began to pound on that rock. We were successful when we took the axe and the first chop into that tree. We were successful on the first chop as we are on the 1,100 and whatever number I gave you earlier chop. Here's what I want you to miss. In fact, maybe now's a good time to just share with you a conversation I had with Tyler Perry. The two of us were talking, and he's been very successful as an actor, movie producer. I mean, he's just in the entertainment industry. He's right at the top, and he's a terrific person and wonderful friend. And he was telling me about how that he wanted to, direct and build a studio. So he built a studio, and he was successful, so he outgrew it. So he built another studio. He's successful. He outgrew it. So I thought, wow, never thought I would have to build a third one. So he builds one bigger than he could ever imagine building. So I said, well, thank God I'm done building studios. Now I can get back to producing, acting. And guess what? He outgrew it. And he told me, he said, John, honestly, I didn't want to build another studio. I couldn't imagine how big it was going to have to be, how much effort, how much time, how much money. I really didn't want to do it. And he said, I spent a couple years just kind of fighting I just didn't want to do it. He said, finally, I made the decision to go ahead and take and make the effort and bite the bullet. And he said, I bought a huge amount of property and, built studios bigger than ever. And now, of course, his business is prospering more and more and more. And as we were having this conversation for quite some time, we looked at each other, and all of a sudden we both had a eureka moment with this thought, and I give it to you right now. When you can afford to quit, you cannot afford to quit. In other words, because consistency compounds, the more you invest in something, the closer you are to accomplishment. In fact, I guess if I have any advice for you on this Power of Five right now is just very simple. That I guess if you're going to quit, if you're kind of, in my daily choice and you're kind of saying, well, I don't know if this is for me, I would just suggest you quit early, not late. Because let me tell you something, the longer you're in the game, the more you compound in the game, and the higher the return you're going to have. I mean, I suppose if you quit the first, quit after you swing one time at the tree, because, you didn't have any effort in it and you didn't have any loss, and just walk away. But the longer you stay with it, every cut gets you closer to your goal. If I was trying to melt an ice cube, and so I heated the room up from 28 degrees to 29 degrees, what happens to the ice cube? Nothing. From 29 to 30, what happens to the ice cube? Nothing. From 30 to 31, what happens to the ice cube? Nothing. From 31 to 32, what happens to the ice cube? It starts to drip. It starts to melt. Now, did I just get good when I went from 31 to 32? No. I was good when I went from 28 to 29. The work wasn't wasted. The work was stored. You see, again, don't miss this. It's like graduating from college, and your family's there, and you get your diploma, and you walk off stage, and you're a college graduate, and they're taking pictures, and they're handing out gifts, and you're going out to dinner, and you're going to have a celebration, a party, and everybody's saying, congratulations, you're a success. Can I tell you something? You didn't become a success when you got your diploma. You became a success when you enrolled in school. You became a success when you went to class. You became a success when you studied for the test. You became a success when you took the test. You see, all along the way, you're successful. It's just on graduation day, success shows up. We confuse success with recognition of success. And here's the key. Consistency doesn't get recognized every day. And so therefore, it's not a sexy word. I mean, when you think about it, if somebody says you have a lot of great attributes in your life, and they start sharing with you what they really respect and love and kind of adore about you, and the first word out of their mouth is, the thing I admire the most about you is you're so consistent. You look at them and say, wow. I was hoping for genius. I was hoping for brilliant. I was hoping for creative. I was hoping for talented. You got a whole list of adjectives of which consistency was not in that list. But I want to tell you, consistency compounds. And once you get in the game, and once you stay in the game, and the more that you invest in the game, the higher the return that you get out of the game. Now that is the power of five. The power of five just simply says to us, if we know what we want to accomplish, if we have the right tool, if we take action, if we stay focused, And if we continually are consistent, we will be successful in my daily choice. That's a fact. That's not any theory to it. That's not a hope so, maybe so, could be, should be. No. The power of 5 will bring you success in your business. So, let's go to the second one, okay? Again, they're not in any order of priority. They're just 5 things that you need to do to accomplish great things in your business. The second one is about connecting with people. I want you to know that connection matters. Just like growth matters in your personal development, connection matters. The ability to connect with people. In fact, connection is the lifeblood. It's the foundation of leadership because the foundation of leadership is relationships. That's just a fact. In fact, when people talk to me about leadership, I define leadership very simple as leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. So people come to me and say, well, if leadership is influence, then how do I get influence? And I share with them it's very, very simple. You get influence by developing good relationships with people. So many times in the area of leadership, people think of loneliness. In fact, we hear the expression that we think is a leadership expression when people say, well, it's lonely at the top. I don't think so. Let me just say this. If it's lonely at the top for you, you're not a leader. You may be a hiker, but you're not a leader. Because leaders are surrounded by people. If leadership is influence, if you're at the top, there ought to be a whole bunch of people at the top with you. In fact, if you're top all alone, well, probably, to be honest with you, you have a personality disorder. You lack emotional intelligence, that's probably for sure. But if you're lonely at the top, here are my suggestions. Get off the top. Go down in the valley, find the people. Because here's what I know. Connecting matters because leaders find their people before they lead their people. And to find people, that means as leaders, we go to where they are. You see, there's a mistaken idea that if we're the leader, we're at the top of the mountain, and we're up there, and we're saying, come on up the top, come on, I'm up here. You can get to the top too, come on up, I'm waiting on you. No. If you're at the top all alone, you go down. In fact, you don't go to the top without people. And you slow your pace because you're bringing people with you. And it's okay. What you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to the top, but I'm not going to the top alone. You want to come with me? And you start gathering people and you start slowly bringing them to the top. There are several laws that I've written about in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, but there are a couple I want to mention to you right now. One of them is the law of connection, which basically says leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. I like that law. It's true. You connect with people at the heart level before you ever ask them to join your team and help you. Another law is the law of buy-in, which basically says people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. I have leaders all the time say, I've got this vision. What do you think? Do you think the people will follow me? And I look at them and say, they'll follow you not because of your vision. They'll follow you because they connect with you and you connect with them. Do they like you? If they like you, they'll follow you with your vision. If they don't like you, they won't follow you. So every day I do 5 things that helps me to connect with people. This is so simple, but this is so life-changing. And I want to give you those 5 things because, again, these are just connecting principles, connecting practices in your life that will allow you to be successful in connecting with people. And when you connect with people, they'll join your team, and when they join your team, they'll buy into your vision, and all of a sudden you can build a team. But you have to do it through connecting with others. So there are 5 things that I do every day. Does that sound familiar by now? We're talking about the rule of 5, the power of 5. We're talking about consistency, how consistency compounds. Well, here's one of those 5 things that I do every day. This would be on 5 things on connecting with people that will really help you to tighten that relationship. And the 5 things I'm going to share with you, you can do. There's nothing I'm going to give you today in this teaching that's beyond you. If you don't accomplish it, it isn't because you can't accomplish it. If you don't accomplish it, it's because you make a decision not to accomplish it. And the 5 things I do to connect with people are so powerful and they're so simple. Are you ready? I'm going to give them to you now. Every day. Number 1, every day I value people. I do. In fact, that's why I'm with you today. That's why I'm with you right now. That's why when Jenna and Josh asked me to come and be a part of my daily choice, I said I would love to do that. I would love to be a part of your program. Why? Because I value them. And you know what? I value you because I value them. And I always value people that I value value. You don't have to write that down. But every day, I value people. And all of successful connecting begins with truly valuing people. In fact, I tell leaders all the time, if you don't value people that you lead, don't lead them. Because if you don't value the people that you lead, to be honest with you, you'll begin to manipulate them. You'll begin to take advantage of them. And that's never good. That doesn't work. So every day I value people. I value you. In fact, in my coaching company, we have a statement that I love. It'll work for you. We are people of value who value people and add value to them. The foundation of connecting with people is to have an appreciation and a value to them. You see, when you value people, they come toward you. When you devalue people, they remove themselves away from you. So every day, number 1, I value people. Number 2, every day, I think of ways to add value to people. The moment that I value you, I begin now to come alongside of you and say, now how can I add value to you? Because you add value to people that you value just like you don't add value to people that you devalue. So now that I value you, every day I'm thinking, how can I add value to you? When I realized that I was going to have the opportunity to be part of your conference and address all of you that are part of my daily choice, the first question I asked myself is, okay, how can I add value to you? And I began to think ahead. What can I say? What illustrations? What teaching can I give you that will just add value? What can I put in your hand? Where's the axe that I can put in your hand so you can go cut that tree? Where's that right tool? The Power 5. What can I do? I'm thinking about how to add value to you. When I was writing the book Intentional Living, I was really working with my grandchildren. We have 5, of helping them to understand that every day they had to be intentional in how they connected and related and valued people. And so I had kind of a practice that went on for almost a year where whenever I'd be with the grandchildren, I would say, okay, now what are you going to do tomorrow to add value to people? What was I doing? I was teaching them to think in their minds. I'm going to be with some people tomorrow. Who am I going to be with? Well, I'm going to be at school, so I'm going with my school friends. Okay, what am I going to do intentionally to add value to them? I'll never forget, my youngest grandson was James, who was 9 at the time. And one evening we're having dinner, and he looked at me and said, Papa, when I go to school tomorrow, I know how I'm going to add value to my classmates and to my teachers. I said, what are you going to do, James? He said, I've decided tomorrow to open the door for people, so that whenever I'm close to a door and somebody's getting ready to walk into it, I'll rush over there, I'll open up the door. And not only have I decided to open the door, but he said, I've decided that I'm going to smile and say, have a good day. I said, James, I love that. That's intentional. You're thinking ahead of how to add value to people. I love that, James. Do it, buddy. Do it. The next evening, he called me on the phone. He was so excited. He said, Papa, I had a great day. I said, you had a great day? Oh, he said, I had a great day. He said, remember I talked to you about opening the door for people? Yeah, I remember. Remember I told you I was going to not only open the door, but I was going to smile and say, have a good, yeah, I remember, James. He said, Papa, I had a great day. He said, today I opened 47 doors. 47 times. Think about it. 47 times. I'm going in and I'm opening the door for people and I'm smiling and I'm telling them to have a good day. Now, this is incredible. Now, James is 9 years old and he already understands that he intentionally, in connecting with people, needs to think ahead of how he can add value to people. This has been a practice in my life for years. Whenever I'm going out to lunch with a person, whenever I'm going to meet with any person, the first thing I do is I ask myself, okay, what can I bring to the table? What can I share with them? And I think ahead of how I'm going to add value to that person, how I'm going to add value to you. Now, every day I value you. Every day I think about how I'm going to add value to you. Thirdly, every day I look for ways to add value to you. When I'm with you, now, guess what I'm doing? I'm looking for ways to add value to you. Now, we discover what we intentionally look for. That's why it's possible for two people to be in the same room with the same people and see things entirely different. We see things and we see people not as they are. We see things and people as we are. So, if I'm intentional in wanting to connect well with people and add value to people, guess what I'm going to look for? I'm going to look for ways to add value with people. I'm going to look for ways to add value to you when I'm with you. And guess what? I'm going to see those ways. Now, how am I going to see ways to add value to you when I'm with you? It's because I'm intentional and I'm looking for those ways. Just like if I wasn't looking for those ways, guess what? I wouldn't find or think of any ways to add value to you. That's why you have to understand that this idea of connecting has a lot to do with being very intentional. Valuing people, thinking of ways to add value to people, looking for ways to add value to people. Number 4, doing things that add value to people. It goes back to that statement of action that I talked about earlier when I said you got to go swing the axe. I'm now with you, and so I'm taking action. I'm doing things that add value to people. In fact, every morning I look at my calendar, I look at the people I'm going to see, and I ask myself a simple question: what am I going to do to add value to those people today? What am I going to do? And I get a game plan. At the end of the day, I ask myself another question: what did I do today to add value to those people? Those are the bookends of my day. In the morning, what am I going to do to add value to people? In the evening, what did I do to add value to people? And number 5, this is all, again, in the incredible power of connecting with people. This stuff really works. Every day, I encourage others to intentionally add value to people. In other words, that's what I'm doing right now with all of you that belong to this incredible organization of My Daily Choice. I'm encouraging you right now in your life to ask yourself, can I do those 5 things? Do I value people? Can I think ahead of how I'm going to add value to people? Can I, when I'm with them, look for ways to add value to people? And can I make sure that I do things that add value to people? And how do I encourage my team to add value to people? I would encourage you to get with your team and discuss these 5 ways of connecting with people and develop yourselves as, get a game plan. And I think what would be absolutely incredible is for you to sit down in that process and begin to share with each other how you're intentionally adding value to people. I think I want to say one more thing about connecting before I continue to go on, because there's just so much to say. I think that I want to say to you today that if you came and walked beside me and as we walked, we talked about my life and success. And you said, John, how did you get there? And I already shared with you that I'd have to point to personal growth as definitely a key to expanding my world. I think I would have to say to you that I started my journey off, my career journey, in my case, my ministry journey, knowing that every day my calling was to add value to people. My calling wasn't to make money. My calling wasn't even to, and back then, to increase influence. My calling was just to add value to people. What I didn't understand is that as I added value to people daily over years, consistency compounds. And so today, when people look at my life, they say, John, it's incredible the success you have and the places you've gone and positions you've held. And I would just say, it's still as simple today as it was when I began. Don't miss this. You never out-success yourself till one day you say, you know what, I don't have to connect with people anymore. I don't have to grow anymore in my life. I've already had it made. I'm where I want to be. No. The same goal I had 52 years ago, I have today. Every day, add value to people. If you do that, you're going to discover very quickly that connecting really matters. Okay, out of the power of 5, we've talked about growth matters, personal development in my life, being intentional there. We're talking now about how do you value people, how do you connect with people. People are going to buy into you before they buy into the vision, the dream, the team, whatever. By the way, the more that they buy into you, the more they'll buy into Daily Choice. It just happens that way. You sell yourself, you can sell anything else. But the first thing you do without selling yourself first is add value to people. Be sure to be the first giver. Be sure to take the first step of generosity. All these other things will follow them. Okay, there's one more that I just want to talk about briefly on the power of 5. You've been such a great audience. Thanks for listening to me for a long time. I'm telling you, I applaud your kindness to me, your patience, and I hope that I'm just pouring things into you that are adding value to you, that are making a difference for you in your life. So there's just one more of the power of 5, and that is significance. Significance matters. And significance is not the same as success. By the way, I want you to be successful. But I want you to be more than successful. I want you to have a significant life. What do I mean by that? Well, success is pretty much about ourselves. It's my career, my business. It's what you're doing here at my Daily Choice. It's you getting better, and success is taking care of my family. It's all good. It's all good. But there has to come a time in your life when you begin to not only think of others, but become committed to adding value to them. If success is all about me, significance is all about you. And that's the difference. And it's hard to get out of success into significance because success meets all of my selfish needs, and we're all a little selfish. I'm selfish, you're selfish. I ran a person one time, they told me, they said, oh, I'm not selfish. And I just looked at them, and I thought you're not only saying you're not selfish, you're also delusional. Well, everybody's selfish. I'm selfish. I have many times, too many times, that I think of myself first. So do you. And by the way, if you think you aren't selfish, you think you're above that some way, then when the next time you're in a group picture with some of your friends there at My Daily Choice or whatever, next time you're in a group picture, let me ask you, when you see that picture, who is the first person you look for? And how do you determine if it's a good picture? You look for yourself, and when you find yourself, if you look good, you say, good picture. And if you don't look good, you say, oh, my, let's do it again. Do it. You had your eyes closed. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. You see, you determine if the picture is any good, not based on what the rest of them look like. It's based on what you look like. Why is that? Because we're naturally selfish. Now that I said that, wow, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to begin thinking about living a significant life. And the journey of significance is very simple. You can take this journey. I've taken it. I invite you to join me in taking it. You see, when I was in my 20s, for a Christmas gift, I got a book. I unwrapped, took out the Christmas paper, and the title of the book was The Greatest Story Ever Told. I thought, wow, I love to read, and this is the greatest story ever told. This has got to be amazing. I opened up the book, and much to my surprise, as I opened up to the middle of the book, the pages were blank. I just started going through the pages. They were all blank. And the person who gave me the book, I said, well, I don't understand. It says the greatest story ever told, and there's no story. The pages are blank. And her name was Eileen. She said, we'll turn to the front page. I turned to the front page, and she had written me a note, and the note said something like this: John, your life is before you. You fill these pages with matters of your heart, with your best dreams, with your highest thoughts. You write the greatest story ever told. Wow. I took that book home, and the next morning on page 1, I started to write the greatest story ever told. It was my story. And I started on that first page by saying and writing, I want to make a difference. My first thought was, I really want to make a difference. I didn't know how I was going to make a difference. I didn't know when I was going to make a difference. I didn't even know why I wanted to make a difference, but I just knew I wanted to make a difference. And day after day, I wrote my story and my dreams in that book. And my journey of significance is just very simple. It's like this. I give it to you. I give it to you with love, and I give it to you with a real sense that you are going to write the greatest story ever told. And by the way, no one else can write this story but you. Don't let someone else write the story for you. You write it. You have the purpose. You have the calling. You have the opportunity. You write your story and make it the greatest story ever told. What I wrote was something like this: I want to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference, with people who want to make a difference, at a time when it makes a difference. If you can go through those 4 phases, you'll live a significant life. In January 2021, I'm going to have a book that talks about those 4 phases. Is going to be called Change Your World. It's a book that will help you live a significant life. It'll help you be successful in life, but it'll help you be much more than successful. You see, I know a lot of successful people. To be honest with you, they're not all happy. But every significant person, every person that has given themselves to others, they're always fulfilled. I think that's the difference. When I live for myself, there's something missing. When I live for others, that void gets filled. So there you have it. I have loved my time with you. You have been so good to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. Thank you for taking notes. Thank you for writing all this stuff down. Jenna, Josh, thank you for letting me be part of my daily choice. And again, remember the power of 5. I would encourage you not only to take these notes and practice them, but get my book, The Power of 5. Growth matters. Connection matters. Mindset matters. Leadership matters. Significance matters. You do those 5 things every day consistently, and your life will matter to more people than you could ever imagine. God bless and good luck. And by the way, my name is John, and I'm your friend.
And now, only for My Daily Choice affiliates, a special offer from John Maxwell.
The middle part of the Power of Five is that mindset matters. How I think, how you think, determines so much of our success. In fact, I would be very prone to say to you that without any question, the biggest gap between successful and unsuccessful people is the thinking gap. I've talked a lot about my father because he's an amazing man. He was an amazing leader. When he and Mom celebrated their 50th anniversary, our whole family went to Hawaii for a week to celebrate with them. And one night, everybody had gone to bed except Dad and me, and we were talking. And I said, Dad, you have such an incredible positive attitude. Your thinking is so unbelievably contagious with people. I said, tell me about your thinking and how did you get that positive attitude? And my dad surprised me. He said, I'm naturally not a positive person. He says, I'm melancholy. I think I'm naturally a little bit bent toward cynicism and maybe a little bit of negativism. I said, wow, you sure don't show that. And he said, well, I don't show that because he said, well, let me tell you a story. He grew up in Georgetown, Ohio, just a little town in southern Ohio, not too far from Cincinnati. He said, we were all poor in this little town of about 1,000 people. He said, there were only 3 families in the town that had any money. The rest of us were just poor people. And he said, I was a kid that loved to work, and I was a hard worker. And he said, starting literally in elementary school, by the 5th or 6th grade, I was doing chores for those 3 families. I would do errands for them. And really throughout school, junior high, high school, he said every day after school, I'd go to work. And I'd go to work for these 3 families. And I kept saying, they're successful. The rest of us aren't successful. What's the difference? He said, I was a junior in high school when I came to this conclusion. The only difference between them and the rest of us is that they thought differently than we did. And he said, John, the moment I realized it was how they thought that was helping them to rise above the rest of us, that I determined to learn how to think in positive ways and to become a success. Wow. That evening, I went back to my hotel room and never went to bed. What my father said triggered me so much that I started writing on my legal pad thoughts and ideas, and it became the formation of the book, How Successful People Think. Now, I've had 11 what you would call million bestsellers. I've had 11 books that sold 1 million copies or more. And of those 11 books that sold 1 million copies or more, they're all leadership except one. The one book that isn't a leadership is the book on how successful people think. And it sold millions of copies because it's a book that just basically says you've got to have the right thought patterns for you to get the right return. And I'm going to give you an example. I'll give you an example of my dad that is just stands out. My father was growing up right after the Depression. And it was a very difficult time. Men were out of jobs, and pretty much every day there was no work to go to. They went to the food line, and they waited in line for them to get food for their family for the day. And my father, who was in that environment, in that same town, he didn't go to the food line every day, but every day he would go to a different store in his little town, and he'd introduce himself, and he would say, I know that you can't afford me to work, and I like to work, so I would like to offer you a free day of work. And the store owner, maybe at the hardware store, would say, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I like to work, and so can I just work for you for free today? You won't owe me anything at the end of the day, but I'd like to help you. Are there some things you need to have done in the store that you haven't been able to get to? And the owner would say, now listen, you got to understand, son, because my father at that time was just in beginning high school. He'd say, well, now you have to understand now. I can't pay you. I know, Dad said, just let me work for you. And Dad would work hard all day. And at the end of the day, he'd come by and he'd say, well, thank you for letting me work today, and shake his hand. And my father was a hard worker. And inevitably, whoever was in charge of the store would look at him and say, wow, thank you. You really helped us today. I'm sorry I can't pay you. And my dad would look at him and say, it's okay. I'm glad to help you. And then he would say, if at any time you ever are financially able to maybe hire somebody part-time, would you think of me? And he'd give him the contact information, and he'd walk away, and the next day go to another store and do the same thing, and another store and another store. He did that for a month. And by the end of the month, my father had 3 part-time jobs. Everybody else is in a bread line. My dad's going to work. Now, what was the difference? Same town, same time, same environment, but different thinking. And I'm here to tell you that when it comes to our thinking and our mindset, sometimes I just wish that, we could, have a zipper on our head, and you could reach in and pull out that mind and kind of scrub it up and wash it up a little bit, and just kind of get your mindset right, because I can promise you, the moment that you begin to think correctly, everything begins to change in your life. One of the books that I wrote is a book called Intentional Living. And if you're going to be an intentional person that lives, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to be intentional in your thinking. No one ever intentionally lived without thinking first. So thinking precedes intentional living. And in that book, I talk about the fact that everything worthwhile is uphill. So to be successful in life, you have to be intentional, because you could only climb uphill intentionally. You don't coast uphill. You don't accidentally get uphill. You have to be intentional. You have to think. You have to plan. You have to give energy. Now, if you're going downhill, you don't have to do any of that. But everything worthwhile is uphill. All of your dreams, all your hopes, they're all uphill. So we have to be intentional in our thoughts. One of my mentors was Robert Schuller. And Robert Schuller had that great expression that tough times never last, but tough people do. And I think that's an incredible thought for us right now during COVID-19, and the fact that our attitude is the difference maker. Now, attitude isn't everything. I have people come in their life and they'll say, well, attitude is everything. And if you can believe it, you can achieve it. Those things aren't true. Those are all said by motivational speakers, but it's not true. Attitude isn't everything. Attitude will not replace competence. If you're not a competent person, you may have a positive attitude, but you may lose your job. Now, the good news is, if you lose your job, you'll still, I guess you'll be happy. You say, well, I've got some free time now. But attitude isn't everything, but it's the main thing. It's the difference maker, and it's the difference maker in all things being equal. If you've got to choose between 2 people to hire, all things being equal, experience, education, giftedness, but one has a good attitude and one doesn't, who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the person with a good attitude. Why? Because it has become the difference maker. And one of the attitudes I think that people have that really helps set them apart and helps to make them very, very successful is this: I choose to believe in myself, and I choose to believe in my purpose. Now, I know people who believe in themselves, but they don't believe in a purpose. They don't even have a purpose. I know people who believe in their purpose, but they don't really believe in themselves. And I just want to help you here that both personal belief, believing in yourself, and purpose belief, believing in what you're doing, they have to kind of rise together. Let me explain to you what I mean. If I have low personal belief, I don't really believe in myself, and at the same time, I also have low purpose belief. In fact, I probably don't even have a purpose. What's the result of that? Low personal belief, low purpose belief. What's the result? It's very simple. I won't get started. Well, let's say that I have high personal belief in me, but I have very still low purpose belief in what I should be doing. If I have high personal belief in me, I'll probably get started, but if my purpose is low, I won't stay in the game. I'll drop out. Well, what happens if I have very low personal belief, low self-esteem, a low sense of self-worth? Let's say my personal belief is low, but my purpose belief is high. Well, what that means is that I'll never accomplish my dream. And the reason I'll never accomplish my dream is not because I lack purpose, but I can't see myself accomplishing the dream because my personal belief is not high enough. You see, I know a lot of people that have great purpose, but because they have a low personal self-esteem, they sabotage themselves. And on their way to success, they make sure that they fail so they'll never have that success. You see, this type of thinking I'm talking about now is I believe in myself, high personal belief, and I believe in my purpose, high purpose belief. Now, when both of those are high, let me tell you what will happen. You will reach your game. That's a fact. And it all begins with how we think. I was doing an interview a couple of years ago in one of our companies, John Maxwell Company. We have a program that's an executive program where once a month I talk to a CEO on a phone, and those in the program, they join with us. The CEO usually is well known, and in this case, it was the CEO of the second largest tech company in the world. And what happens, the CEO gives about 20 minutes of best practices, what he or she is doing in the business to make it successful. And then I do leadership application off of what they share. And then I ask a few questions. Then I open the lines, and the rest of the people on the executive call, they open the lines too. So here we go. You got the picture. So I'm talking to this CEO, and I'm asking the question, and this is, again, how a person thinks. I asked him, I said, let's talk about your mistakes. Let's talk about your failures. Let's talk about the things you'd like to do over. I mean, you like to go back and do them over. We call them do-overs. I said, talk to me about your do-overs. Well, if you could go back and, correct your, decisions, your mistakes, your failures, what would you do over? And what he said that day was incredibly life-changing and powerful. He said, well, John, he said, first of all, I've made a lot of mistakes, had a lot of failures, made some wrong decisions. But if you really gave me the choice to go back and do any of them over, I don't think I would go back. And I mean, I'm quiet on the phone. Everybody's quiet on the phone. And there's just kind of like this, 15-second pause. It's almost like we've been disconnected. And the process of being disconnected, we aren't at all. It's just that we're all surprised because he's saying, I wouldn't go back and do any of them over. And I said, well, what do you mean? I'm not sure I understand that. He said, well, let me explain. He said, I've had some mess ups. But he said, what I learned in my failure. Now, this is thinking correctly. In other words, he thinks that failure is a learning tool. He said, what I learned in my failure taught me so much more than what I would have learned if I would have been successful. He said, most of my important wisdom and vital lessons of life have been learned out of my setbacks and my failures. And he said, I've got such wisdom out of making mistakes and learning from them. He said, I don't think I would do any of them over because the character that I've developed on the inside and the wisdom that I received that helps me be a leader today. He said, to be honest with you, I wouldn't do any of them over because what I learned out of the failures and mistakes, I think was so much greater than what I would have learned if I would never made a mistake. And that day when I hung up that phone, I thought to myself, I am talking to a gentleman. I'm talking to a CEO. I'm talking to a business person. I'm talking to a successful individual who understands that thinking right, your mindset, how you think about life and issues and problems. You see, right now during COVID-19, there are all kinds of problems. But can I tell you something? People that think right are having all kinds of creative creative thoughts in their life. There will be more creativity come out of this year, 2020, than probably the next decade. Because opportunities are always disguised as problems. Opportunities don't come to you and just say, opportunity, 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 come get it. If they were that blatant and that bright, everybody would go to the door of opportunity and find them. But they're problems. They're disguised out of difficulties and failures and dark days. And you see a person that thinks right, surrounded by all the adversity, the darkness, and the problems. The person that really does well is the person that understands that there's always an answer. There's always an answer. That's what keeps creative people in the game. That's what keeps me in the game right now. There's always an answer. And usually there's more than one answer. The moment I began to think like that, wow. Then I go from asking the question, can I? That question, by the way, just looks for excuses. Well, can I do that? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure I was born at the right time. I'm not sure I'm in the right organism. Can I? You need to switch from can I in your thinking. You need to go from can I to how can I. You see, the moment I go from can I, which looks for an excuse, to how can I, now you've already said, I'm going to do it. I just got to figure out how I'm going to do it. We aren't even considering excuses. And remember this, the best excuse is the worst excuse because you buy into it. It's all in mindset. Mindset matters. Okay, mindset matters. It sure does. No question about that. But there's a fourth part of this power of five. And of course, you would expect me to talk about this briefly to you today. And that is leadership matters. Everything rises and falls on leadership. That's a fact. When I realized as a young man that everything would rise and fall on leadership, I felt called to help people learn how to lead. Now, when I wrote my book, the best book I've ever written on leadership to mentor people, yourself and others, is Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. And when I wrote that book, it was a breakthrough book because I said in that book, you can learn to lead. Up until that time, people thought that you were a born leader or you weren't a born leader and you either had it or you didn't have it. And I said, no. Since leadership is influence, you can learn to increase your influence. If you learn to increase your influence, you learn now to increase your leadership. So you can learn to lead. And out of that, and out of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, came what we call the law of the lid. And when I talk about leadership matters, this one little illustration will just help me, and that's all I need to give you to help you to understand the importance of leadership in your life, the importance of leadership in my daily choice. It's everything rises and falls on leadership. The better you lead, the more successful you'll be in that business. So here's the law of the lid. Let's say that this left hand represents my leadership lid. Now, my leadership lid this is how well I lead. This is my leadership skill level, okay? So this is my leadership lid. Now, whatever this lid is, this is the lid that keeps me from doing better, going higher, and being more successful. Because if this is my leadership lid and this is my business, my daily choice business, my daily choice will come under my leadership lid. Never go higher. It can't. There's a leadership lid on it. My leadership determines the size of my business. That's why we call it a leadership lid. So if from a 1 to a 10, let's say I'm an average leader, I'm a 5 as a leader, that's my leadership lid. What that means is my business at Daily Choice, it's going to be a 4. And let me tell you what it's not going to be. It's not going to go above that lid and become a 5, 6, or 7. It can't. The lid determines the size of the business. Your leadership determines how successful you're going to be in my daily choice and in every other area of life. Okay. When I'm doing Q&A, boy, I'd sure love for us to all be together. Maybe someday that can happen and for you to ask some questions. One of the questions people ask me often is they'll say, John, are leaders born? And I, whenever they ask me that question, I look at them and say, well, of course they are. Of course they are. I've never met an unborn leader and don't particularly want to either. Now, what they're asking is, again, are you, are some people they're born, they got it, and some people they don't got it. Now here's what's incredible. You can grow your leadership. You can become a better leader. In fact, the reason I'm so passionate and I've taught leadership for over 50 years and written all these books on leadership, and I'm doing this conference with you right now, is because I'm passionate about you becoming a better leader. Now, here's what's beautiful. If you can grow your leadership, you can lift your lid. So let's go back to the fact I'm a 5 as a leadership lid, so my business is a 4, but I can get better. I can grow. I can learn. And I can go from a 5 to a 6. Maybe I can get to a 7. Every time I develop and grow my leadership lid and it goes higher, guess what I do now for my business? I lift the ceiling so my business can go from a 4 to a 5 to a 6. My business will follow my leadership lid. Always has, always will. That's why I look at every one of you at My Daily Choice and say to you, if you really want to grow your business, do what I did when I was in my 20s. I began spending an hour every day on leadership, learning leadership, practicing leadership, and lifting my lid.